Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us for the GitHub Copilot Bootcamp. My name's Anna, your producer for today, joining you from Redmond, Washington. Before we dig in, I do have some quick housekeeping. First, our code of conduct. Then I have 3 tips to help you make the most of our training. We seek to provide a respectful environment for both our audience and presenters. While we absolutely encourage engagement in the chat, we ask that you please be mindful of your commentary, remain professional and on topic. Keep an eye on that chat. We'll be dropping helpful links and checking for questions. Our session is being recorded. It will be available to view on demand within 24 to 48 hours, right here on the Microsoft Reactor YouTube channel. And now, some tips before we dive into the training. Our bootcamp has 4 live classes happening between February 4th and 13th. If you want to receive class reminders or the recording link, register on the series page. You can find that link on the screen or in the chat. Along with our bootcamp, we have a Cloud Skills Challenge, and you can participate to receive a badge to highlight on your resume. To participate, just use the QR code on the screen or the link we'll share here in the chat. In the Cloud Skills Challenge, you will have access to a free course track on Microsoft Learn to deepen your knowledge of GitHub Copilot. And the last tip is that at the end of the session, we will share a 64% discount code for GitHub certifications, so stay tuned. With that, I'll now turn it over to our speaker today. Thank you for joining.
Hi.
Hey,
Hi,
hey,
everyone.
hey, hello, Veronica. Hello, everyone. Hey, super happy to be here in week 2. And also, oh my God, Anna make an amazing intro talking about all of the stuff that we have here, the discount, the Cloud Skill Challenge, and more. I did the same in Spanish, and I feel so bad because mine is not as good as she's. It's super well pronounced. Mine is very, very bad. But hey, here to talk about productivity with you, Veronica. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Good to see you, Bruno. I'm sure you went well. I have like very little knowledge of Spanish, so I I can't really
No,
help you with that. But other than that, I'm sure you did great.
hey, fun fact there. When I get those scripts, I usually use Copilot to help me clean the script because I can't read the full script. I'm not the type of person, but I ask Copilot to summarize this in main bullets and more. And it really helped because I can use 4 bullets with the main ideas and then I do my pitch there. So, hey, even if you are not using Copilot just for code, it's going to help you with these other things. And it's super, super amazing. And hey, yes, this AI are here to help. But today we are going to talk about, first of all, do you want to introduce yourself? Sorry.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, I have a couple of slides actually.
Perfect.
Yeah, before I introduce myself, I do want to remind people about the topic. We're gonna talk about boosting productivity with GitHub Copilot today. We'll be talking about documentation and unit tests. And my name is Veronica Kolesnikova. You can see it on your screen. And then I do want to mention our beautiful moderators today. I do want to thank them. They are awesome. They're gonna take all your questions and pass them to me. They're gonna communicate with you online, so they're gonna be your best friends and then my best friends at the same time. Mega and Anthony, thank you so much again. And a couple of words about me. Again, my name is Veronica Kolesnikova. I am a senior software engineer at Liberty Mutual in Boston, Massachusetts. I am also Microsoft MVP in AI. I started my career as a quality assurance engineer, and then I moved to development. I used to work a lot with Microsoft technologies, C Sharp, .NET, Xamarin, Maui, all that fun stuff. I am obviously obsessed with artificial intelligence and machine learning, and lately I started working more with Node.js, TypeScript, Java, Python, and you name it. And my hobbies are dancing, traveling, and aerial fitness. Okay, are you ready for the actual content?
I will say yes. And hey, I am going to be in the back in the comments also helping. Hey, this is a pleasure. I try to join also at the end. But in the meantime, go for it.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Bruno. Okay, so I do have a couple of slides. I already mentioned it in the beginning. It is just for people who maybe didn't have a chance to work with GitHub Copilot, or everyone who needs a quick refresher of what's going on, I don't want to bore you too much with slides. I do have a couple of things to cover before we move to the code and see how GitHub Copilot works. So the introduction, really quick here. GitHub Copilot is basically an AI assistant. Let me actually, I don't know, switch my screen. Not sure why it's flickering here. GitHub Copilot is your helpful assistant that can help you to write code, to create new functionality, to suggest different test cases, suggest documentation, and be your partner in crime when you're trying to write new code or you are trying to improve the code that you already have. There is a quick overview of capabilities. GitHub Copilot can understand context and language constructs, providing relevant code suggestions. It works with different programming languages. So if you want to start with one language and continue with another language, you don't need to switch anything. You can use the same GitHub Copilot, or maybe you are trying to convert a project from one programming language to another. In that case, GitHub Copilot can help you as well. It can provide code suggestions. It understands the context, so you basically can share the whole project or point a GitHub Copilot to a specific file if you want Copilot to understand a specific functionality and target specific functionality. Okay, next one here. There are a couple of GitHub features. GitHub Copilot. So here you see GitHub or GitHub Copilot or just Copilot. I am talking about GitHub Copilot, so it's all the same. Don't be confused. The Copilot seamlessly integrates with popular development environments like Visual Studio, VS Code, and other IDEs you might use. I am recently using a lot of VS Code for all kinds of development. So GitHub Copilot is integrated there, and it is free. So anyone can use it. Anyone can try it. So if you haven't tried it, I do recommend to check it out. It can help you with code line completions. So if you're not sure what to write next, or maybe you are stuck with something and you want suggestions, then GitHub Copilot can automatically suggest code. It's up to you to accept it or to reject it. There are a couple of other options like inline chat. You can open that little window just above your current line of code and then maybe ask about that code, maybe to fix something. Maybe there's a bug, maybe there is an issue. Maybe you want to write code for that specific line. Inline chat is the best. Next one is chat view. You can have the whole chat with GitHub Copilot. Maybe you want to provide a couple of files as a reference for GitHub Copilot, or you want to get not just a quick solution, but also an explanation, and you want to go back and forth and have a real chat with the Copilot. You can use chat view. There is another way to use chat. It's a quick chat when you have a quick question and you don't want to go back and forth a lot. And then there are smart actions that are available with GitHub Copilot. They can complete certain tasks without even having to write a prompt. Okay, and now I am going to talk about the documentation and how GitHub Copilot can help you enhance your documentation. Effective documentation is essential for maintaining code quality and facilitating collaboration. We all probably had new people on our teams. They didn't know where to start, or we ourselves were those people, those new people, those newbies when we're coming into a new team or getting new repo and we're trying to understand what is going on there. And documentation is really essential. It can speed up the process, the learning process, understanding process. So all those new developers or new people who work with your code, with your repo, they can just hit the ground running faster. Here, I do want to talk about some smart actions and response improvement techniques. Um, uh, Using GitHub Copilot chat with questions. Um, when you are asking questions, some of them are really generic. Um, Actually, those questions, they don't even have to be about your specific code and your specific solution. You can ask any questions related to maybe programming, or I don't recommend to ask just random questions because there are other tools for that. But if you want to have conversation about code, maybe ask for some suggestions, some references related to documentation. For example, you can have a chat with your Copilot, and then you can have access to some quick actions like explain and generate documents, smart actions. Um, they're kind of self-explanatory. They explain what's going on, maybe in open file that you have, or any specific function that you can select and then use that quick action to explain what that function is doing. And then generate docs is obviously for generating documentation for your code. Then you can use chat participants such as Workspace and Terminal, and those participants, they can help GitHub Copilot chat understand the larger context of your questions. You can use slash commands. I have one example here. It's explain. There is another one, fix. I really like the fixed command. You write something and then you're like, okay, I'm not sure where I'm going with that. So you just click fix, and you're seeing where GitHub Copilot can take it and how it can fix it. Then you can also use chat variables such as file or editor to help GitHub Copilot chat understand where it can find specific information related to your question. So lots of different options. You can use those commands. There are always more suggestions from GitHub Copilot, how you can use it, what else you can ask. And there are some simple prompts. You don't have to write tons and tons of information. Provide all the details to the Copilot in order to get better answer. In most cases, the shorter your prompt, the better. So it's not too wordy and it's not getting Copilot confused. Um, Copilot can suggest inline comments based on the code that's been written before. This feature helps developers maintain clarity in their code by automatically providing context for complex logic. The Copilot can automatically suggest some comments. Those comments can improve code readability, and then again, it can help you understand complex logic. This part is debatable. I know all the benefits of inline comments. I personally feel like the code that is written well doesn't require all those comments, but I know it's debatable. It's case by case approach, and you don't need to shy away from all those inline comments. And then GitHub Copilot can assist in drafting your README files. If you are creating a new repo, READMEs are essential if you are providing new functionality, making some changes, updates, they need to be reflected in those README files. GitHub Copilot can suggest structure, content, and even more examples to enhance your README files. So you can include code, you can include as many details in those files as you want. Okay, and now really quick, I want to talk about automating unit tests with GitHub Copilot. Having unit tests is vital for any project, any code base. Doesn't matter what kind of language you're using, what kind of project you're building. GitHub Copilot can generate test cases, helping all of us focus on writing robust code. You can write initial test cases, or you can expand the coverage. Maybe you already have, maybe it's an older project, you already have some tests existing there, and you want to expand the coverage. Maybe you want to test those edge cases better. And sometimes, we are humans. So we are writing code and we feel like, oh, we tested everything. But maybe GitHub Copilot can help you out with some edge cases that you didn't think about. Um, from my personal experience, I used to spend a lot of time actually writing those tests. It was kind of tedious, it was time consuming, it was tricky to pick the right framework for testing and then keep it updated. And now with GitHub Copilot, it is much faster, much more efficient, and then covering all the bases there. The quality of the code, thanks to those tests, is improving as well. There are some challenges and things that you need to remember. While GitHub Copilot offers numerous advantages, there are challenges and considerations that you need to remember when you are utilizing GitHub Copilot. You need to have understanding of limitations and potential issues. AI is not perfect, and also it is not a pilot, it is co-pilot. So you are still in charge. It is one of the principles of responsible AI. Human has to be in charge, and you need to know who basically to blame for AI mistakes. So it's crucial to understand the limitations of GitHub Copilot, as it may not always generate perfect responses. You still need to double check the code that it generated, the documentation it generated. And then now there are different models available through GitHub Copilot, different models that you can try. So some of them are working better with maybe some programming languages, others are working better with others. And then it depends what kind of help you need from the Copilot. You need to pick a better model, and then still you need to verify that the suggestions provided by GitHub Copilot are suitable for you. They're not introducing any vulnerabilities. They are helpful. They can be basically checked in with your code in your project. And then you need to ensure code security and privacy. So you are working with AI tool. GitHub Copilot is an AI-based tool. So it is not perfect, It shouldn't be just let let go and be wild and create the whole project for you and you do nothing. You need to understand principle of responsible AI. You need to apply those principles no matter if you are building your AI model from scratch. Maybe you're training a new machine learning model or you're using something like GitHub Copilot. So you need to think about the responsible AI principles, understand the vulnerabilities, and then think about best practices for security. And here's the conclusion for the slides, but not for the talk in general, because I do have code. I do want to remind you about that. You can use GitHub Copilot to enhance productivity. It significantly boosts that productivity. It's making those tedious tasks like creating your tests faster, more efficient, so you can spend more time on actually implementing new functionality. And then making sure that your code is actually working. It provides unit testing support, and then you need to remember about limitations and considerations when you're using any AI-based tools. It is really crucial to apply those responsible AI principles. And now I want to move to the code finally. I do have 2 projects today. Let me start with another one, actually. This one first. Those projects that are based on the uh, LinkedIn Learn modules, Microsoft Learn modules that you can use. I'm not going to spoil everything for you and do everything for you today. Those modules are really helpful. I do recommend to go back and actually do them on your own as well, not just whatever I'm going to show you today. And before I move to that, do we have any questions?
Our wonderful moderators are handling our questions in our chat. I think we're looking okay for now, Veronica. Thank you.
Perfect. Okay, then I'm gonna move to the labs. So if you are familiar with those Microsoft Learn modules, you probably know that they are extensive. They provide you all the details. They provide you the code that you can use for your learning journey. So I got that code that I'm going to show you from those Learn modules. So when you go back to them, you'll be able to download the same code from GitHub and then use it on your own. So first task is going to be targeting documentation and what you need to install if you're using VS Code as I do. You need to install that C# dev kit. I'm just checking the name of it. C# dev kit if you are planning to use C# option. And then the Copilot. I have it here. I have the Copilot chat here. So I'm going to open the chat. Sorry. And here you already have a couple of commands that you can use and some tips and tricks here, kind of reminders for you. Here you can use different models. Some of them are in preview. The GPT-4o is fully available. I actually, in a lot of cases, I prefer GPT-4o since, first of all, it's not in preview, so it is recommended by GitHub, and it is out of that initial evaluation. And then I think it is faster than, for example, O1 or O3 Mini. Those two, they tend to take a little slower. because they are iterating and thinking a little more. Okay, so back to the task. So the task is to create documentation for that project here. The project, let me open this one so you know the structure. It is basically just one file and some media files here. Let's pretend that I'm seeing this project for the first time here with you. And I do need to create documentation. So I need to document that device class. And then for each property and method, I also need to create documentation. So it's going to be inline comments. And then later on, I do want to create documentation formatted as Markdown so I can use it either in README or somewhere else. And then specifically README file that should contain project title, description, setup instructions, usage, and contributor guidelines, and some license information. So let's start with that device class. I'm going to select the whole class here. And now it's pretty straightforward project, nothing too complicated, but it's just an example. So we all can practice and see how it works with GitHub Copilot. So I'm selecting the whole class here. And then I am passing a command. Let me copy the prompt. I do have my cheat sheet here, so I don't have to type it on my own. We are using the workspace, we're using selection here, and then we want GitHub Copilot to use the whole workspace and specifically the selection to generate inline documentation. Let's just do that. It's gonna think a little bit. And what is going on here is it is using two references, the program CS file since it's open, and then inside that file I selected those lines of codes, and here are the suggestions provided by Copilot. So each line of code now has a comment, so we can better understand what is happening there. Yeah, so for example, here, that is a startup message for our program for device class. That's the main entry point to the application. And then we are initializing the device. And then creating the handler method. And I just want to check that all the comments are valid and correct. And here we have a method to monitor conditions and update twin properties. So looks good. I personally, if I had more time, I know I have only an hour today. If I am actually working with your GitHub Copilot and I wanted to provide inline comments, I would go through each comment and compare and see if it makes sense. But since I don't have enough time today, I think we're just gonna believe whatever GitHub Copilot suggested. Also, it's just a test project. I don't recommend to do it for your real project because sometimes it can be something gibberish, something you don't want to see there. And you need to be mindful what you are committing into your repo. So I am going to do apply an editor here. Use active editor. And so GitHub Copilot is going to apply all those comments that it suggested here to my actual file. Perfect. So it applied it there. You still have an option to double check and accept or discard each change that the Copilot made for your file. I am just gonna do global accept. So it's gonna accept everything. Okay, perfect. Next, I want to talk about documentation for the project. Let me save this file here. I want to generate overall project documentation. So I'm going to use another prompt here. And I wanted to include specific information to that documentation. So I'm using the whole workspace, and workspace includes the whole project. And I want GitHub Copilot to document this project and specifically include overview and sections for dependencies, features, requirements, constraints, and summary. So let's do that. You see all the dependencies with versions of those dependencies, which is very important if you're trying to reduce number of vulnerabilities. If you want to support specific version, then it's easy to see it right here. And then you have an overview of all the features. So that device provides temperature and humidity monitoring, fan control, Azure IoT Hub integration, and then twin property updates. There are some requirements, some constraints, and then the summary. And here you have more detailed information with code documentation. There is main class with a link to that main class here. And then some fields that you need to pay attention to. Enums, methods. So it's very, very detailed. If you have a larger project, it might be too much information sometimes. So maybe in some ways, or you want to just go file by file and create documentation for each separate class or for each separate functionality if you want to. So we got that information. Now we do want to format it as Markdown so we can copy it to README, for example, or copy it somewhere else where we want to have it in Markdown format. It is thinking here. Now you can see it's pretty much the same as we saw before. Not pretty much, but exactly the same. It didn't make any changes. It just formatted it in that Markdown version. And then you can edit it. You can regenerate it if you feel like something is wrong. And then if you want to fully work with GitHub Copilot and make suggestions better, you can mark it as helpful or unhelpful. So if something worked really well and you want GitHub Copilot to continue doing that, mark it as helpful, and Copilot will learn from it. Or if something was completely off, that mark it as unhelpful. And then next time, GitHub Copilot will provide better suggestions. So perfect. We got that. Now we actually want to generate README file. So I have another tricky prompt here that I don't want to type. We're going to use the whole workspace and then specifically ask GitHub Copilot to generate a README document that can be used as a repo description. include specific fields like description, setup instructions, usage, contributor guideline, and license. So let's do that. Okay. So some setup instructions. You can update the link, obviously. And then follow the instructions, update the device connection, because there is your device connection string here, which you probably want to include and copy it from Azure, for example. And then you can do .NET build and then run monitor console output, so you know how to get that project set up and then how to run it. So GitHub Copilot helped you with that. Contributor guidelines, that is important if you want to keep it open source. And some license information here. Perfect. Now we just wanted to format it as Markdown. So let me do that. And then we'll be able to actually copy that content to a README file. We can create another file, for example, here. It's gonna be okay. So what we can do, we can obviously we need to double check that everything is correct. Maybe update your URLs. I'm not gonna do it right now. I think I'm just gonna copy it. I can use insert that cursor here. So it will insert it all here. I'm gonna save it. And yeah, that's it. We got station. Now we know everything about the project. We also got quick comments, inline comments here. So if you're starting with a new project, you don't need to be afraid. GitHub Copilot can help you better understand what's happening, and you have a chance to actually double check it if whatever GitHub Copilot is telling you is correct. Now I do want to move to the second project because I want to talk about unit testing. So let me open this one. That's a bank account project. I do have that unit tests. And that's not the right project, unfortunately. Let me open the right project. File. I think it was this one. Okay, maybe that wasn't the right one. That project is actually why it's not the right one. Let me figure it out here. Why it's not the right one, because I already tried. I'm not gonna show you something that I haven't tried myself. So I had to go through the lab and see if it's actually working. That's the proof that it is actually working. But let me open a clean project for you. And let me do this one. Sorry, it's going to take a little bit. And I am going to copy it here. Okay. Okay, let's try another one. And we have it. Let me see. Downloads. Okay. Okay, so that, yes, that should be an empty one. And that's how it looks. So you can open it in Explorer, or you can have Solution Explorer. So if you have a C# project, it's recommended to, first of all, install that extension for C# Developer Kit, and then open a Solution Explorer. So it's gonna look like that. That's an empty project. I just didn't want to distract you with the project that I already worked with. So let's go and create some unit tests. So here we do have two files. We have that bank account file with that bank account class where we have account number, balance, account holder name, account type, and then the date that account was open. And then some methods here: credit, debit, get balance, transfer balance, print statement, and calculate interest. So not something really complicated. It's just a really simple demo project that you can use to work with Copilot and see how Copilot works. So what we want to do, we want to create a test project which will include tests for each of those methods: credit, debit, transfer, get balance, and calculate interest. And then run all those tests in Test Explorer, and maybe see if we can create tests for some edge cases there. So we do have a project open. We want to add another project to this solution for where we're going to have our tests. So it's going to be X unit test project. And we're going to name it bank account unit tests. So it's not really confusing. This one, okay. And then we're going to use default directory. And here it is. Now it's empty. There are some dependencies here. We want to delete that unit test file since it's not really useful, just an empty file. And what else we want to do? We do want to add a reference to that bank account project, so we know that they're connected. A project reference here, and it is bank account. Let me close that so it's not distracting. And then we want to create those unit tests for that bank account class using the GitHub Copilot chat. Again, let's use GPT-4o model here. And what I'm gonna do, I open the chat view, and I do want to attach context. So the context here is gonna be that bank account file. So I'm gonna add it here. We can just drag and drop it, and then the whole bank account unit tests project here, the project. And then we have, there's another way to how, okay, that's, we can do it in another way. We can drag and drop it, or we can do something like attach context here using this button. And we want to create tests. It is something simple. So it is just that / command that I mentioned before for tests. Tests, add unit tests for my code. Let's do that. Let's open that file. And okay, that is the current file. Let me do that again in this project. Okay, let's try it again. So now we know we need to have that file open first, and then ask the Copilot to help us out. Here's some information which can be really useful. It's not just code. The Copilot explains what's happening there. And here we are. Let me close this part and expand this side. So we do have a new unit test here for each of the methods: credit, debit, and another one for the debit, get balance, transfer balance, another one for transfer, and yeah, we have a couple for transfer, then calculate interest. Let me close that. Yeah, so that looks good. Obviously, again, if it was a real project, I would spend more time checking those tests and making sure that they are valid. But since I've tried it before and it worked pretty well, I trust with that simple project, trust Copilot to do that. So what I'm gonna do, I am gonna apply edits. You can actually edit it. If you don't like something, you can edit it. I'm gonna apply the edits. Okay, so that's same thing that we got here. And we need to make sure that the path is correct. Usually it is not correct. It is trying to save it to the main project. But as you remember, we created a separate project for our tests. So what we do save as, and we're gonna go here, and we're gonna keep the name the same, bank account tests, tests, since there are a bunch of them there. Tests, and we're gonna save it there. Okay, that's the file. And then we do need to make sure that it includes a private read-only field bank account of type bank account. It is not including that, so those tests are not gonna work. We can actually try it with a terminal. We can use Copilot here as well. If you're not sure what to do, you can just press Control I. I'm using a PC today, and talk to Copilot and ask how to run the project, for example. So let me do .NET run, no, .NET build. You can see that some of the suggestions are not helpful. They're just distracting. Okay, so we don't have any errors here, but at the same time, you see, okay, no issues with build here, but we'll have some issues when we try to run those tests. So we are adding the private read-only bank account. So, for example, if we want to run it here, okay. Okay, so that's what's happening. So we are adding adding additional information to our class that Copilot created for us. Okay, yeah, the name is different. So that is fine because and then we do need to replace that bank account here with underscore bank account. Okay, let's keep it this way for now, and then moving forward, we'll see. We'll rebuild the solution and see if it's working or not. So going back to terminal here, we move this part away and start a new terminal, and we'll do .NET build. Okay, 0 errors. Interesting. Yeah, so I guess it worked without the private read-only option here. But let's move forward and see if we actually needed it or not, because that was part of the lab there. And then we want to create unit tests for all the edge cases. So we keep this test file open since we already have some test cases there. And then we select the whole bank account test class. It's pretty long. Let's do that. And then and then we're gonna attach bank account file to the context, so Copilot knows what's happening there and what the class we actually use to create those tests for. So let me copy the prompt here, the prompt. So we're going to use the selection from this file, from the test file, and check with Copilot if there are any edge cases here. Okay. There are a couple of tests that it wants us to add. And we can add them. Add cursor. Oh, no, that was a mistake. Gonna do this one and then add cursor. Yeah, I left another bracket there. And we're gonna insert it here. So it's all working. Okay, so we added edge cases there. And then we want, since now we have a lot of those tests, and it might be a little hard to read and go through all of them, we want to organize them. So we are going to select the whole class here. Again, the tests, the class with all the tests. Here. And then we'll use the selection and ask Copilot to arrange the unit tests in order by the method that they are testing. So let's do that. Yeah, it's a lot of code, so it takes a little while for Copilot to organize it all. But it's much faster than maybe I would go and check one by one and rearrange them myself. So we're going to do apply in editor. It's going to apply that for us. And then we are close to being done. Going to accept all of that. I hope it's working. Never do that with your real code. Again, I keep reminding you not to just blindly accept anything. And I am going to open tests here. And I am going to run all of them here. So some of them actually failed. And no exception was thrown. So I am not going to debug it right now, but that's another proof that GitHub Copilot is not perfect. I decided to accept those changes blindly, and that's what I got from it. So there are some failures that I need to go back and fix it. Obviously, GitHub Copilot can go and help you fixing those issues, but it is up to you. You can accept it all first and then go and fix it later yourself, or you can change it in your communication with GitHub Copilot before accepting it, and then actually move it to your code. Yeah, so I know we are at time. That was a quick overview of how you can use GitHub Copilot to create unit tests and documentation. And I do want to answer a couple of questions if we have any questions. Any questions?
I do see a couple questions in our chat here. It does look like a few of them have been answered by our moderators, but happy to discuss them. We have Navneet has asked, by default, Copilot does not give us edge cases, and we need to ask specifically to Copilot for this edge case.
Yeah, so in a lot of cases, it doesn't offer you all of the test cases. Sometimes it does. AI is non-deterministic, so it depends on what kind of code you are having, and yeah, sometimes it includes everything. Sometimes you need a couple of extra test cases, and specifically ask Copilot for those edge test cases.
Navneet's got another question. Thank you, Veronica. They're asking how Copilot generates tests when working in test-driven development, since we start by writing test cases without the main file.
Yeah, good question, actually. This way, obviously, you don't have that option to select the code and then create tests based on the code that you already have. But you can start inline interaction with your Copilot, for example, or with GitHub Copilot chat. I worked with chat today. I didn't show a lot of inline interaction, but you just need to describe basically what you want it to test, and then it will write code for you. It will create a test, and then you just modify it and see if it's the test what you wanted, or you wanted to generate something else. And it's kind of like iteration and going back and forth with your Copilot, and figuring out if that's the test that you wanted. And then based on that test, you can eh, actually put this test as context for your GitHub Copilot, and then tell the Copilot to generate code based on the test.
Awesome. Thank you, Veronica, and thank Navneet for the awesome questions. We are just about at time, but we have time for one more question. We've got Ali here. Can you give Copilot a hint on the preferred style of the tests? For example, my organization uses the style of a nested class per method.
Yeah, so if you already have project with tests, you can have that reference for your GitHub Copilot and just tell it to use the same style. Usually, in a lot of cases, it picks up the style on its own, or once you provide that reference to your tests, but sometimes not, and you just need to specify it in your prompt.
Awesome. Thank you, Veronica. Thank you, Ali. For our audience, if you do have any other questions, please feel free to join our AI Discord community. That link is on the screen and in the chat. With that, Veronica, I'll let you wrap her up.
Awesome. Thank you so much. It was great experience. I hope everyone enjoyed it. And if you have any questions related to GitHub Copilot or AI in general, feel free to find me online, find me on LinkedIn, find me on Twitter or X, and please let me know why you want to connect, especially on LinkedIn. And I just want to thank Microsoft Reactor, for having me and providing that great opportunity to share my experience and share knowledge and interact with amazing audience today.
Thank you all for joining, and thank you to our speakers. Our discount code is available on the screen and in the YouTube chat. Please note that it is valid for 4 days. Use the QR code next to it, or go to aka.ms/info-github-certs to follow the steps to redeem your discount. There's a limit of 1 GitHub discount voucher per person. This offer is non-transferable and cannot be combined with any other offer. This offer is not redeemable for cash. Taxes, if any, are the sole responsibility of the recipient. Microsoft reserves the right to cancel, change, or suspend this offer at any time without notice. We'll keep this code on the screen for about a minute, and we'll see you at the next one.